Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be an update on kind of what is going on in our fertility journey, our treatment journey, and kind of what the next steps will be. So after our last video, you all know that I was super anxious about potentially having to do a surgery. I was very emotional about that. And I told you all that I had an appointment scheduled to kind of have a sit-down consultation with our physician. So we did that this morning. We got there really early and we were able to sit there with him for a while, and he really just kind of went over kind of what our journey has looked like so far, kind of the steps that we have taken, and then what's next, what are our options, and kind of what is he thinking is wrong, if that makes sense. When we first met with him back in July, we knew that we had a few questions regarding, you know, what does Tyler's semen analysis look like? That will answer a lot of questions into what could be causing our unexplained infertility. After that, we had the IUI. We were able to see his semen analysis and it was really, really good. So we likely know that that's not an issue. So if you didn't see my first video about that, my physician had kind of given us some statistics, some percentages, likelihood of conceiving, all that kind of stuff. And as of right now, if we were just to try naturally, our chances of conception, because we are at the 4-year mark, is about 1 to 2% per month. It ends up being for the year around 6%, you know, something like that as a yearly picture. So obviously that is not very good. If you are like have really good normal fertility, your chances of conceiving each month are about 25%. After the first year of trying to conceive, your chances of conceiving should be about 95%. So that's why once you get past that 1-year mark, you're considered to be infertile. And that's when you really start taking treatment measures. Obviously, Tyler and I have done different tests, blood work, blah, blah, blah. And this year is really the first year that we have decided to move forward with seeking treatment options. And because we've been on this journey for 4 years, it is very clear that there is something underlying that is causing the infertility. And so we're really at the point where we're trying to pinpoint what that is. Basically, our doctor kind of went through it again with us. He always kind of does it like this, and I really like it because he's very in-depth and thorough about our options and explains the processes, I feel, very well. So now that we have got past it's not ovulation, it's likely not tube blockage, it's likely not Tyler's semen analysis or sperm quality, there's 3 things that it likely would point in the direction of that they would suspect. Number 1 is endometriosis, which is something I've talked about with you all. The second thing is sperm function issue, which is basically like the sperm is unable to penetrate the egg, but that is like not very likely. The third thing is egg quality, which is also likely not an issue for me where I'm still only 26 years old. That's usually something that happens in your late, 35 and older is when that starts to become an issue. So my doctor, like I've said from the beginning, he has been really convinced that it's endometriosis, though I don't really have any symptoms of it. So our next steps are basically to figure out if it's endometriosis or not. And in order to do that, he has given us a few options, and it's honestly a lot to take in. He did tell us, there is no wrong answer on what you choose to do next. It's really up to you what you feel mentally, and as the patient, it really boils down to you and what you want to do and what you feel is best for you. And so that was reassuring, in knowing that no matter what decision we make, there really isn't a wrong decision. I think that a lot of the, there's a lot of questions on, I think for us, it's finding the most likely way to conceive while not having to spend as much money, if that makes sense. So I don't want to keep nickel and diamond this and just doing little things here and there that's costing a lot of money. I don't want to do something that is super expensive that likely would not work. I think that there's just so many different things to consider when it comes to our next steps. So basically, there's 2 different ways that you can test for endometriosis according to my physician. One is the diagnostic laparoscopy, which is basically surgery that I was talking to you all about. He did explain all of that and what that kind of is. It is typically an outpatient procedure that takes about an hour to 2 hours to perform. I've seen where there's complications or something that causes it to be a bit longer. It really just depends on your case, but that is what it typically is. So basically that just allows them to go in and see, like with a camera kind of, and see if there's any endometriosis that they can see, and then potentially scrape that off. If we were to do that, we then, after that procedure, would try naturally on our own for 6 months to a year for us to really reap the benefits of that procedure. The other option is something that's a little bit newer that they haven't used as much but are using a lot more recently, and that is called a receptiva test. Basically what that is, how he explained it, was that they would kind of go in vaginally and kind of like a biopsy. So they would scrape off some I guess they would scrape a little bit from your uterine lining, I believe, and they would be able to test that to see if it's inflamed, which would likely mean that it is endometriosis. So there's a lot more specifics and details on that I am not qualified to speak on because I don't really know all the specifics, but obviously that test is a lot less invasive. It does not require me to go under. It does not require incisions made on my belly. It's a lot more simpler. And I'm pretty sure like 75% of women who have unexplained infertility test positive for endometriosis. So the chances of that being positive are likely. So therefore I likely have endometriosis. The reason why I feel like I'm leaning toward that test, obviously, is because it's non-invasive. I would not want to do the laparoscopy surgery if I have that option, because yes, it's likely that it'll come back positive, but what if it's negative and then they basically open me up and have to go in there and look to see? Like, I think that that is not the wisest thing to do. I don't want to put my body at jeopardy for infection or anything else like that, even though it might be something that's more routine. I don't want to go under if I don't have to go under, which is obviously one of my biggest fears with this. So, and it's painful. You are, like, I would be out of work for 3 to 4 days, just in recovery. And the biopsy test is literally, it takes just a few seconds. You'll have some cramping when they scrape it, but then after that, he said you walk out of the office pretty fine. Like, it's pretty simple, it seems like. So, and then you would have the test results within 7 days. So basically those are our 2 options for testing to see if, or being able to confirm whether or not I do in fact have endometriosis, which is likely what is probably causing the infertility. If I were to do the receptiva test and it was positive, our options would basically either be the laparoscopy surgery. So yes, you could still do the surgery once you knew that you were positive. So if we did the laparoscopy surgery, they would basically go in there and scrape that out, and then we would try on our own for about a year. The laparoscopy surgery would likely be able to be covered by my insurance. However, I have a high deductible insurance, which means I would be paying, I'd have to meet my deductible, and also I think it's 70/30, so, and then I would also have to pay 30% of that charge. So based on that, my doctor said that I would be looking at about $6,000 out of pocket for that procedure. The Receptiva test is about $700 just for reference. So obviously it's still not a cheap test. It's more than it's about the same as an IUI. So it's obviously not something that's cheap, but it's a lot cheaper than the actual surgery. The other option is to go straight to IVF. So basically how this would work is if I were to say, no, I don't want to do the laparoscopy, I'll just go straight to IVF, and then I wouldn't have that waiting period of a year of trying naturally, and then the chances of conceiving after that surgery are about 35 to 45%, which is, I mean, obviously a lot better than what it is now, a lot better than an IUI, all that kind of stuff. But if I were to say, okay, I just want to go straight to IVF, either way, I would still need to have the Receptiva test, because if I'm positive for endometriosis, the egg can sometimes have trouble implanting in the uterus because of, it's kind of just like a volatile environment with the endo. So basically, if I tested positive and I was going to do IVF, there's a couple different things. There's kind of like this hormone therapy, I think. It's like a medication that suppresses it. You take it for a certain period of time. So it basically allows it to calm down, and you're more likely for the egg to implant. If not, the other option would be to do the laparoscopy surgery. So it's just a lot. Like, there's so many different avenues and ways to do it. I think for me, I want to do what makes the most sense for my body, for my mental health, and financially. So I think, obviously, you can probably tell from what I'm saying, I think our next option is to do the Receptiva test, see if it's positive or negative. If it is positive, we will have to choose between doing a laparoscopy surgery, which will cost us around $6,000, or IVF, which would cost around $15,000. The thing that I struggle with there is like, okay, if I'm gonna do the laparoscopy and it's already $6,000, should I not just save up and then do IVF and have a higher chance of it working? You see what I'm saying? So there's just so much, because I think in my head, well, what if I pay the $6,000 and then we have the surgery, and then after a year we don't conceive, and then it's like, well, should we just went ahead and done IVF and then done the medication to suppress it, and then it would, we would avoid the laparoscopy altogether. So there's that option. Or we just, like I mentioned, do the laparoscopy. If it comes back negative for endometriosis, then our option is basically to go straight to IVF, because obviously the laparoscopy would be pointless. There's really no sense in us doing IUIs, because Tyler semen analysis is so great that it truly wouldn't benefit us anymore. I don't know that the time cycle would really benefit us that much anymore, knowing what we know now. So all in all, I think that basically we're just going to have to save up and do the Receptiva test hopefully soon, and then kind of see what our options are. for moving forward with one of the procedures, whether that is a laparoscopy surgery or IVF. And I told Tyler on the way home, I'm like, oh my gosh, like I just think it's kind of funny because in my Q&A video after our IUI treatment cycle, I literally said like IVF is, we are not even there, like it's not even on the radar, but I would never say never. And then it's like, okay, here we are, and IVF seems like one of the most viable options for us. I truly just never thought that we would get to that point. I don't know, just like in my head, I just felt like we wouldn't, like why would we need that? Like I'm healthy, like how is that going to be a problem? And I was so hopeful with the IUI, and I just thought, you know, that's probably what we need. We need the IUI and it'll be successful, and then it wasn't, and it probably never would be. But I don't know, I just think it's just a lot to take in, you know, what is going to be what brings us to finally conceiving. And obviously that's not an easy pill to swallow. It's nothing that I would wish on anybody to have to go through this. But yeah, I just wanted to be able to give you all an update, kind of let you know what we're looking at following our consultation with our physician again. So if you all have experience in this boat, I'd love to hear your stories down below. Let me know if you had a laparoscopy, how did that go for you? What was that experience like? Did you have success conceiving afterwards? Or if you chose to go to IVF instead, what was your reasoning behind it? What made you think that that was the best option for you? I just, you know, I have to weigh all options and figure out what's best for Tyler and I and for our family and our situation. And it's not easy. Trying to find a solution to this is like, it's the weirdest thing. It's hard, it's difficult, it's emotional, and it can be draining as well. So anyways, that's my update. I hope that you all enjoyed this video. Hope to hear from you all in the comments, and I will see you all in my next one. Bye guys.